All right, let's talk about finding out whether lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So let's take a look at this line, these lines right here. So this line goes through these 2 points, and this line goes through these 2 points. So to figure out their slope, we need to calculate their slopes, right? And we know the equation for this. It's this one that we talk about so often, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, right? This is really just the change in y over the change in x. So this is how much did y change and how much did x change, okay? So let's figure that out. Well, let's x1, y1, x2, y2, x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, let's label those so you remember which is which. Now let's figure out the slope of the first line. So we take y2 minus y1. That tells us how much it changed from 2 to 8, right? So 8 minus 2. And then we do x2 minus x1. So that's 2 minus negative 10. 8 minus 2 is 6. And 2 minus a negative 10 is really 2 plus 10. So that's 12. So we get 1/2. So the slope of line 1 is 1/2. Now the slope of line 2, let's calculate that. So we have y2, which is negative 2, minus negative 4, over x2 minus 2. So negative 2 minus negative 4 is really negative 2 plus 4. Excuse me, negative 2 minus negative 4 is really negative 2 plus 4. So that becomes a positive 2. And 6 minus 2 is 4. Okay, well that reduces or simplifies into 1/2. So these both have a slope of 1/2, so that makes these parallel. All right, let's take a look at this one. Again, we're just going to label x1, y1, x2, y2, x1, y1, x2, y2. And now let's figure out what the slopes of these lines are. Okay, so the first one is y2, which is negative 5, minus y1, minus negative 1, over x2, 6, minus negative 6. All right, so negative 5 minus negative 1. Remember, these cancel each other out, and we have negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4. And 6 minus negative 6, again, those cancel each other out, and we get positive 12. We can divide both top and bottom by 4, so we get negative 1 over 3. So that's the slope of the first line. Now let's check the slope of the second line. We get 11 minus negative 4 over 2 minus, oops, sorry, that's 11 minus negative 7. So you've got 11 minus negative 7 and 2 minus negative 4. Okay, so 11 minus negative 7 is really 11 plus 7, which is 18. And that's really 2 plus 4, which is 6. You can divide both top and bottom by 6, and you get 3 over 1, which is positive 3. And if you look at these two slopes, one is negative 1/3, and if you flip that and change the sign, it becomes 3. So these ones are perpendicular. You can see my kids are having a meltdown in the background. You're welcome for that. Yeah. All right, so now we're going to tell if these lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So we're given equations instead of points for these. So let's figure out if they're parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So what's the slope of this line? Well, it's not super obvious, right? Because it's in standard form. And unless we have it in point slope form or slope intercept form, we can't just see the slope right away. So let's change this into slope intercept form so we can see that. So here's our equation. 3x plus 2y equals 8. Let's get y by itself by subtracting 3x from both sides. We have 2y equals negative 3x plus 8. And then we divide both sides by 2. And we have y equals negative 3 divided by 2. Negative 3 halves x. Well, 8 divided by 2 is 4. Okay, so this equation and this equation, they're the same. It's just a different form, right? Now let's take a look at this one. We have 2x plus 3y equals negative 12. We got to get y all by itself to get it into slope-intercept form. So we subtract 2x from both sides. We have 3y equals negative 2x minus 12. Divide both sides by 3. And we have y equals negative 2/3 x minus, well, 12 divided by 3 is 4. Okay, so here we have two different, this equation is the same as that equation. Okay, so now we can compare them. Let's find their slopes. Well, here's the slope of this one. Here's the slope of this one. This one is negative 3/2, so if we flip it and change the sign, we flip it, it becomes negative 2/3, and we change the sign, it becomes positive 2/3. But if you look at this one, this is a reciprocal. They definitely are reciprocals, but they are not opposite of each other. They still have the same sign. So these ones are going to be neither. These ones are not parallel, perpendicular, or they're not parallel or perpendicular. All right, let's take a look at this one. Now this one's already in slope-intercept form, so we could already just find the slope just like that. That one's got a 3/4 slope. Now let's find the slope of the other one. Okay, so again, it's in standard form. We just have to change it out of standard form. So we have negative 9x plus 12y equals 24. To get y by itself, we're going to add 9x to both sides. You have 12y equals 9x plus 24. Divide by 12, divide by 12. We have y equals 9 divided by 12, well, 9/12. We can divide the top and the bottom by 3, and we're going to get 3/4. So that's 3/4 x plus 24 divided by 12 is 2. Okay, so now this equation and this equation are the same line, just written in different forms. And we have the slope of this equation found, and we have the slope of this equation found, and we notice that they are the same, which makes these lines parallel.